Rolling Tin Fist.
Hello, man. So, Turd Flinging Monkey did a video called Economic and Social Models Part 1, The Free Market. I will put a link to the video in the description. It's a great video, by the way, and you should listen to it. Even if you don't agree with the premise, I think it's important to listen to it because as you mature as a man, you find the value in the ability to hold multiple perspectives in your head in addition to the one you believe in. Anyway, one of the things that he brought up was the idea of free market and how it relates to essentially the law of the jungle. My wording, not his, but the same idea being survival of the fittest, what have you. In the animal kingdom, there is no welfare system, right? You're a lion on the Serengeti, you hunt for your dinner, you have to defend your females, your cubs, and when you get old and you can't hunt so well, you're looking at either being really clever about how you get meat, or to the point, God forbid, you get injured, you may be the victim of another lion or just starve. But that's the natural order of things. So I begin to think about, in terms of MGTOW, if MGTOW don't marry and perhaps are less likely, if at all, to reproduce, then how does MGTOW continue? Like, how do men that are MGTOW continue? To preface that, one of Turd Flinging Monkey's points was that the reason that the free market and, narciss selection are the way to go, are the best mode really in terms of markets, is that it's the best guarantee of continuity because nature selects the most viable genetic cocktail to take over to the next generation. I mean, that's what makes it possible. If you're listening to this, the reason you're here listening to this is that genes belonging to lesser combinations of individuals did not make it from the previous generation. Okay? Yours did. So you were, for lack of a better terminology, the chosen one, the special snowflake, or at least your parents were. And that's why you're here. Now, if MGTOWs don't do that, right, there is no, or at least in theory, through the natural process, boy meeting girl, babies 9 months later and all that stuff, how does that genetic material that is likely to produce a MGTOW come around? One thing that has been discussed is, I know Sandman is a proponent of this, and something he's planning to do is some sort of surrogacy. However, that comes with its own perils and challenges, if not expenses. So that's one thought. But then I thought, okay, let's say some men do decide to do that. It won't be at the levels, I don't think, at least not in the short term, as much as the default, which is, boy meeting girl, man meeting women, having babies. The percentages won't be as much to really have as much of a groundswell than the larger blue pill white knight population. And that may be fine. I don't know. But then I watched tonight a movie that I've never really seen in its entirety until tonight. And it's called The V for Vendetta. It's a 2005 movie. And if you haven't seen it, you've at least seen representations of it and on the internet. So it's usually a mask of Guy Fawkes, and I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. Anyway, with a black hat, he's wearing a mask, and I won't go into the details of the story and all that, but the idea of the movie is that, you can have a character for a cause, a particular man, a particular woman, and that particular individual can, protest, that individual can, commit acts of violence for a cause, what have you. But really, what makes what they're doing catch on, spread, and persevere is the idea behind that, the symbolism, if you will, or maybe the result of the symbol of the act or the person is what makes it persevere. So the idea really is what the work is for, not really the person or the act itself. And there are plenty of examples of that. Now, in terms of MGTOW, there's not a lot of MGTOW. There's not even a lot of, I would say, identified red pill men. But there is this idea that is catching on. This idea that men are waking up to the fact that they've either been sold a lie in terms of the promise of marriage. Okay, if they're older, if they're already married, maybe if they're divorced. Or if they're younger, they're coming to the awareness that maybe what their parents did, let's even say their parents had a working relationship, that for them today, it's a different ball game. They can't expect, based on the type of women they see, to have that type of relationship where they can have kids, have the sense of security, have a sense of we're in this together. Or if they saw their parents' union go down in a blaze of hell, they are very clear that the women around now are even worse. So there's really no incentive to go down that path. And so that idea is spreading. Even if you're not, red pill, okay, even if you're not MGTOW, there's awareness that things aren't the way they used to be. It's very clear. And, men are beginning to ask themselves, why are we doing this? Like, why get married? And from a serious perspective, it's just not there. They see the narcissism of gynocentrism, and they see all these examples where, feminism, I guess 2.5, whatever they're calling it now, but feminism as it is today, it's not just about, giving women the right to vote, but it's really to the point of life on campus for a lot of men is a dangerous place, affirmative consent, where, from the time you say hi, she has to be okay with it. From the time you open the car door, from the time you have dinner, from the time you walk about, there's more of those little things, those little constructs that are really, seriously detrimental to a young man's life and livelihood. So it's very different. And so this idea that is coming from all of this, that is swirling around MGTOW, is something, I think, answers that question of how do MGTOW pass their message to the next generation. Essentially, what is the legacy of MGTOW, right? And I think rather than, at least the way I thought about it was, well, having a kid, okay, and teaching that kid about red pill and MGTOW, and we have another MGTOW. It's much more practical, I think, or maybe even more viable, that it's transferred as an idea more than it is genetics. So let me know what you think.